All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. I am back after a really nice sort of mini vacation. And so now I'm back here working on stuff. We got Xcode 13, the final version dropped today. So I've got that installed here, and I'm going to start checking my code against it in at least this application tonight to just do a quick check and make sure that everything's working the way it's supposed to be, hopefully. Hopefully it's compatible with the new version of Swift and it won't cause me too many problems. So let's see. First thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to go in and clean my build folder. This is my effects application, the one that stores the camera presets, you may recall. First thing I'm noticing, I've been using the Xcode pre-release versions for a while, and I don't know how I feel about, if you can see this here, these icons to indicate like this is a Swift file. I mean, I guess I'll get used to them. I guess I have to, but I'm really not sure how I feel about them. So we'll have to see how that goes. Um, I Xcode 13 in general, I'm fine with it. I've not had too many problems. I've probably had more problems with the final release candidate of iPad and iOS 15 than I have with Xcode. So we'll have to see how that goes. But that's a different story entirely. And gonna have to get used to seeing some of this stuff appearing up here. It's not really obvious in the status bar. Well, I don't know what you call that. The tool top status bar, the toolbar status, whatever. We'll have to see. But let's go ahead. I'm going to try and run this in an iPhone 12 simulator. Let's see what we get. Hopefully it's going to compile. All right, come on. What are you doing? So I haven't updated my iPhone and my watch into the latest versions yet, but it seems to think that it still wants to start, making them ready for development. Well, good luck for that because they should already have been development. But I guess you got to do it every time Xcode updates, right? With the new OSs. So come on, just do your things. It's going to take a little while first time around. Let's go back and I'm going to look for the main screen there. There we go. All right, this is a good sign that it's going to compile correctly, so that's good. Just want to see it run. Okay, so far so good. Let's see, I'm going to swipe through my onboarding screens here. Everything looks fine. Go ahead and start. I'm going to try this out here. So I'm going to hit up here. I'm going to create a new preset. Call it my preset. This is the description. And I'm just going to go through. I'm just going to choose some options. I basically want to make sure that every control is being recorded as I would expect the basic functionality to work. And it doesn't break any code. Just going to put something in there. We'll say weak and off. White balance will say 5600 Kelvin. 0, 0. ISO is 800, which was a grainy film back in the day. Exposure compensation is going to be -1 stop. Okay. Not going to hit clear because I don't want to enter it all again. Hit save. Looks like it's being saved back here. And it looks like it's recording everything there. Actually, the grain effect is not recorded and neither of these ones. So that's a bug. So going to have to fix that bug. I think if I recall, that actually may be a bug. Let me go in and hit the edit here because I think that is a bug with using an external keyboard that I noticed here. So I'm going to bring the on-screen keyboard back. Device. No, keyboard. I'm going to toggle the software keyboard and now I'm just going to type in strong because I think I hit this once before where it wouldn't record my external keyboard entry. White balance, we'll put this at 5400. That actually, I should probably change the keyboard on that to be a numeric one since the white balance would really only be a numeric value. All right. Let's go in. Let's put a 1 and we're going to put a 2. Just want to make sure these are being recorded. ISO, I'm going to put in 800 again. And exposure compensation -1. Stop. Oops, stop. Thank you. There you go. Okay, update. Oh, nope, still didn't get them. Okay, so we got a bug there. Oh, it got them this. Okay, it didn't update the screen. So it does record them. So I was right. The problem is the external keyboard simulator and some of the entries are just weird. I had this with Xcode 12 and those simulators as well. For some reason, the external keyboard, sometimes it records them, sometimes it doesn't. I don't know what the deal is there. I guess I'll have to figure it out one day. But as long as the actual application itself is working fine, then that's good. So that all looks good. So when we go edit, and if I change that to my preset B and I update that, goes back here. This is now updated. Okay, let's try something here because that was I did notice that there. Let's change the 800. I'm going to change this to 900. Let's use again the on-screen keyboard. IO keyboard toggle soft. I should remember it's Command K, and I'm just going to put in 800. Let's make it 900 so we can see the change and update it. And it didn't get, this didn't update, but I think what actually is happening is because the data is being put into that screen by going in from this direction, I think I have an binding update issue there. Because if I go in now, it says 900, but if I go here and go update, that's fine. Let's change this from a B. Let's take that back and update. Notice how this one goes back to the list. So there's definitely something there. I think what's actually happening is because it's not triggering the update correctly when I'm changing some of these values down here, it's going back to this screen where it shouldn't. So that, I think that is a genuine bug right there that I found. So yay me, I found a bug. How exciting. Okay, so that's that. Let's have a look here. So swipe to delete. That's working, and then this button here is just a temporary developer button just to show my display screens again. But let's go in and add another one, and I'm not going to put in a whole bunch of details. I'm just going to put in a bunch of stuff here. I just want to save it. So now let's make sure that the persistent data store is working. I'm going to stop it. I'm going to play it again. All right, that's cool. It's working there. Let's get rid of this. Let's kill this off. Make sure the persistent data store works there. Yep, fantastic. On the settings, you'll be able to click on here. The web page isn't there yet, but it will be. I don't know yet on how much I like this bar at the bottom for the tabs. I guess I'll get used to it. Still very controversial, this whole new tab thing. We'll see. Anyway, the web page will load once it's there, and the export allows me on the share sheet. Yep, fantastic. So that's all working. Since we last looked at this together, I've also done this. So it's pulling the version number from the build settings now. Let me show you that quickly in case you've not seen that before. So I'm going to kill this off. All right. Let me go to the app settings. What I'm doing here, you'll see that I've got this one here, the app version. I go into the bundle main object for info dictionary key. I'm looking for that one there and getting the value, and then all I'm doing is putting the value down here. So anytime I update the version number in the build settings, it should automatically update it in the app. So it's not a hard-coded string. Hard-coded strings I don't like. I like everything to be easy and manageable, and also know it's going to update. So wherever possible, I don't like using things like hard-coded strings for version numbers and stuff like that. I also don't like checking against strings. It's just a thing where I just don't trust them. And, it's too easy to miss something. Okay, so we've only got the one bug so far, but it looks like everything in this code base is working good. it doesn't seem to be. I've got some warnings here. Let's have a look. That file does not have a valid extension. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so let's go. That's a new one. So in the assets here, it's saying, hey, oh, I wonder if it's because, let's have a look. It does have a PNG extension, and the file is there. There it is. Yeah, that's the file. So I wonder what's different about these. Oh, I wonder if it's because these are uppercase PNG. That would be weird, right? Let's try it. Oh, that is odd. Okay, so the problem is, let me show you. It's saying that it's having a problem here because it doesn't like the fact that this is a lowercase PNG, and if you look at these ones, this has an uppercase .png. Okay. I don't see why that would make any difference. Anybody? I don't think that should matter at all, right? But we'll change this to PNG, lowercase, and then just update it here just to make it happy. All right, how bizarre. Xcode 12 was fine with it. I guess 13 doesn't want to like it. Anyway, problem solved. Okay. Let's do a build. Command B. Okay, this was one that I had from before. Yep, that's not something I'm going to be worried about. That's just opening, saying that, hey, you know, this application can open files, but I've not completed the work. That's fine, because I'm not actually going to be opening files with this. In the sense of if it was a document app and you bring them in, right? So this one is just purely, you know, that was a feature where I wanted to import presets. I haven't finished working on that yet. Haven't really got it working the way I want it to work. So that's what that is. Okay, I'm going to run it again here. Just want to make sure those screens are still working the way I expect them to. And I don't know why. I'm looking at my camera view here. It's making my glasses appear all black. I don't know. I'm not one of those weird black-eyed kid paranormal things, I promise. Okay, let's get rid of this. I want to see the loading screens again. So I'm going to come out. I'm going to kill this off. Just to make sure it loads the images. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, everything's working the way it should still. So that's good. It was just the extension on the file name. Okay, I can live with that. All right, so that's that done. So other than that, it looks like, you know, let's go ahead, kill that. Just want to make sure everything's good now. All right, before I go any further, I'm going to make a commit here. Checked code base for Xcode 13 compatibility. And push it. Great, that's in the bag. That's good. All right. Now, what I want to do on the add new preset here, very close to this code base being done for a 1.0. Already working on the next patch for it. A lot of optimization of code and stuff, but the 1.0, I think it'll be fine. Okay, let's look for Okay, green effect. Card marking color. White balance is here. Okay, text entry component. I think this was gonna be my problem. Yeah, this was the generic component that I built for some of the fields. I think that's what's giving me the issue here. It's not capturing the content properly in there. I remember this being a weird thing I had to deal with once before. Hey Logan, how you doing? How goes the programming? So far, with the new version of Xcode, the programming is going good. How are you doing? Hey, yo, Coco Type, how you doing, buddy? Have you updated your versions of Xcode and OSs yet? Has everybody gone out and run out and updated all their iOS devices today? I have only done my iPad. I am not doing my iPhone or watch yet. But I am using Xcode 13, and that's what I was checking my compatibility here. You've been on 13 since June. Well, I have been using the betas and, of course, the release candidate. The question I guess I should have asked you is anybody going to be using Xcode 13 to make production code yet? That's what I should have asked. Personally, I'm not just yet. I'm still sticking with 12 until maybe a point release on 13. But the good news is, everybody, so far my code has not completely broken. The issues that I have is a little bit of issues that I already had. Which could be worse, right? There's nothing worse than you're like, okay, new OSs, new Swift version, and boom, everything breaks because it was deprecated or something like that. Not the case with me so far. So I guess I got lucky. I either got lucky or maybe for once I actually wrote decent code. I don't know. Well, I guess we'll let time decide, right? So that's that. Coco Type says, I haven't had anything to ship yet, but the next release by my is going to ship from 13 because we've got 15 specific functionality. Okay, that's fair. Yeah, if you've got, iOS 15 specific functionality, I mean, your back's against the wall. You don't have a choice, right? You've got to go with the latest Xcode. So, no, I get that. Yeah. Thankfully, that's not the situation I'm in right now. Touch wood. But that could change, of course, anytime. I just would prefer, if possible, to see a 0.1 release before I tell my team, all right, we're upgrading, Plus, they probably hate the fact that I'm telling them, stick with 12 for now, Logan says, we talked a few months ago about general programming, and I have since just built my first full stack web application. Fantastic. Well done, Logan. Remind me, was you the one that was asking about, someone was asking about code camps. Was that you? I can't remember. But well done. So tell us more. What's your web application all about? It was you. Okay, yeah, you had a friend that had done a code camp, said it was good. I remember, see? So tell us all about it. How did you find the experience? Was it fun? What technologies are you using on your web app? Go ahead and share the details. We'd love to know. Well done. I'm so glad that you went ahead and pushed ahead and did one. All right, while I'm doing that, I'm gonna run this again. I want to check that my theory is right about what my issue is here. All right, add one. Oh, Coco Type is hosting the stream for one viewer. Thank you, sir. Thank you for hosting. Appreciate it. I built it in the Pern stack. I don't know that one. You have to tell us about that. It's an e-commerce web store with mock fishing equipment. Hello. I thought, yeah, I know. I thought I was in there too. I couldn't remember Coco Type. I know I have you listed as auto host, but thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Trying to learn about deploying now, and it's a bit of a pain. Yes, deploying is an interesting little situation, isn't it? Oh, Postgres Express React. Oh, nice stack. Yeah. Um, React to Node and Express I've used. I've not used Postgres before, just because I've not had to. So, how did you find it? Did you feel it was a good experience? Did you find it good to work with? Makes sense? And then a follow up question for you, Logan, is how are you planning to do your deploys? An automated deploy system is always the best, especially with a build system too. All right, let's go through. I'm trying to remember which ones. So I think it's just these open text fields are not being recorded. So if I'm going to put them in here with the on-screen keyboard, not a hardware keyboard first. So I'm going to put in any old junk here, see if it gets recorded. And see. Okay, save. Okay, it is just this component where this component's used, the text. Here's my theory, although Cocoa Type is much better at these things than I am. I'm almost certain what's happening is because I converted this to its own view, its own component, the text that's going in is not being pulled out from within the component. And the reason it's working when I do the edit, let's test this theory. We go back and then go forward. Yeah, I think the reason that that's working is because on the edit screen, I'm not using that component. I've got it hard coded the long way. Yeah, that's my problem. All right, let's see what's got. Logan says front end was pretty easy and quick to learn. The back end was really hard. I find it the same way. That's always been the same way for me. The Express stuff. I had taken some database classes in uni a few years ago, so the SQL was fun and quick. Oh, good, yeah. I'm trying to deploy with a site called Heroku. Yeah, okay. It does have automatic deployment using GitHub branches. Yep, but so many specific little things they want you to do. Yeah, isn't that the truth? I've not deployed from Heroku, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be similar to some of the other ones. I use for one of my websites, which is sitting on top of a Gatsby JS, which is basically built on React. It's a static site generator. I have that on Netlify, and it pulls from my GitHub repository and pushes the build out there. So it's kind of a similar thing. On Heroku, it's been a long time since I looked at it. Like I say, I've never actually used it other than playing around with it. But I think, if I remember rightly, I think that's one where you're a little more interactive, right, with the OS and stuff like that. Or maybe I'm wrong and they have the option now where they'll just, you know, deploy your site to a pre-built, you know, running node somewhere. But yeah, getting those set up the first time around can be a real pain in the butt. That's why I liked Netlify, because with Netlify, I wanted something I didn't want to have to manage, the code base. I just wanted to make the content. And part of the reason being is I'm just so busy with things. I wanted to just put content out and forget about it. But that said, maybe I should take a look at Heroku. It's been a long time since I did that. Heroku doesn't let you touch the OS, but it's a bit more involved than a static site thing like Netlify. Okay, thanks, CocoaType. All right. At least you don't have to my nightmare scenario is always a host where I have to maintain the OS, because like I say, I think it's that thing of when I'm doing this kind of stuff day in, day out, every day, the last thing I want to do when I get home or finish work is do my personal stuff and have to manage that. And in order for me to put out, podcast episodes and content and all that stuff on compileswift.com, it basically means, look, I need a way to be able to just make the content, throw it out there, and let some automated system take care of it. If I have to start managing it, it's going to fall behind, and I don't want that to happen. So that was my choices on those. Logan says they have specific files they want you to have things on. I didn't realize you had to change all your callback URLs to the new site URL. So I had all my callbacks going back to localhost. Oh, okay. All right. I get you. Um, Something you may want to think about there is if I have to deal with something like that, I would use a constant somewhere that would have like my base URL domain so that, it would have that domain name in one location in a constant for the entire site. And then I would just use that as part of the URL constructor for links everywhere on everything. And then when you change that one constant, you're going to automatically update your links everywhere. Does that make sense? Um, that way, that's also a good way to switch between production, maybe staging, QA, development, all those different servers. You can just change it in one place. Like saving it to a variable. Yeah, it's exactly like that. It's basically just a variable in one place that you'll have the domain name. And then instead of putting on a link somewhere, whatever it may be, localhost / blah, 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 you would put that variable name and then concatenate the rest of your URL string on the end. And then that way it's going to check that variable every time. And whatever that variable is set to, that will be your starting domain name, right? Does that make sense? Um, so that way you can you can just switch between environments like that. I do it. I do it in some of my in my iOS applications and that as well. Cocoa type may even do the same thing. It's pretty common. You'll have a configuration file for each of your environments, and then you just switch between whichever one you need. um, I do it on the web and in my apps, but it just saves some time, and you don't have to go through and update stuff all the time. If you can, try to do things like that in one location, because let's say you change a domain name or something later on, or maybe you even have a DNS issue and you got to point to an IP. You just do it in that one place, and you're good to go throughout the entire site. Make sense? CocoaType says this may be a bit advanced for your current level, but 12factor.net is a good resource for this kind of stuff. Oh, I did not know about 12factor.net. I'll have to look that up, CocoaType. Thank you. Logan says, all right, there's this thing called environment files. Not sure if they have that. Oh, yeah, okay. I don't know if that's what that is, but maybe there's environment variables as well. But the thing with that might be that you might not be able to, depending on when it would read the environment variables, it might be too late in the deploy process. Not sure. You'll have to play with that. It's a really good idea to start doing it. Yeah, it is. It saves you a lot of time. And it also means if you have a crunch emergency situation, maybe you do a deploy and you forgot to change it. Uh, you're talking about seconds to minutes to make that change site wide, as opposed to maybe hours or some fancy search to find them and change them. And so it's all important to keep that downtime as small as possible, and that would be another way to help with that process, right? Or if you get fancy, if you get really fancy, and I haven't done this, but I'm thinking off the top of my head, you could even have a script or something in your build and deploy process that will make sure that you are not set to localhost. And if it is, stop the build, right? So that build doesn't go to production, so you won't have the downtime, and maybe it can trigger an email to you or something that says, hey, you messed up the build, you need to fix it, right? That would be a much better scenario than something going live and then finding out, oh crap, I got a problem, right? Um, Maybe a couple of things to think about. Anyway, that's a couple of approaches, all right? I don't have an example to hand, otherwise I'd show you one. But yeah, anyway, that's one way you could go. Hey, let's see. Over we have on YouTube Ben. Hey Ben, how you doing, buddy? What's up? What you been up to? I gotta find a way to merge my YouTube chat and my Streamlabs chat into one. It was so easy to do it with Restream, but I'm struggling to. I haven't spent enough time to figure out how to do it with, uh, on Streamlabs yet. So that's why I've got the two chat windows. Logan says some great advice. Oh dear, that's your first mistake. If you think I'm giving great advice, that might be the problem. I'm trying to learn some TypeScript. Oh, yes, me too. I do a lot of JavaScript, and TypeScript has always been a thing. It's like, wait, typed JavaScript? This is what I want. But anyways, I'll let you get back to your program. No, please, Logan, ask as many questions as you want. This is all about, it's all about the chat room and what's going on in the chat rooms and talking about this stuff. That's why I do this, right? Plus, it gives me a way to delay me writing bad code. And I'm sure Coco types laughing. This way, if I'm talking about something else, I'm not messing up my code. And it's all coding related. So please, because I'm really excited for you and your journey. I remember, when you asked about it, and there's nothing more exciting than starting the journey and reliving that experience through someone else doing it. So please feel free to ask and talk as much as you want. It doesn't have to be, about my terrible program here. Please feel free. That's what it's all about. I'm actually thinking, I'm toying with the idea of taking a website or an idea for a website and building it with a Swift Vapor, so that it's a Swift based server side website, just for the fun of doing it. Really, I don't have a need to do it, but I think it would be fun to do it. I just like with my iOS apps and my Mac apps, I like to take something I've done before, try it out in different technologies, and see how it works out. I think that's a good way to compare different technologies and see how all of those are going. Coco Type says, us old folks can relive our youth vicariously through the people in chat. Exactly. That is exactly right. And he's being generous. I get to live a lot longer vicariously than he does, because I'm sure he's a fraction of my age. I'm not telling you what it is, but there's a lot of gray. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. Hey, Ben, hope you're still with us. Let us know how you're doing. But yeah, I get excited when other people start their journey, because that you don't have that preconceived, or not preconceived. You haven't built up a history of knowing things that don't work or things like that. And I think it's kind of like when you're a kid or younger, right? And you're not afraid to fail and try something and be like, whoops, try again. I think, and I should probably do a podcast episode on this at some point. Go to compileswift.com/podcast. But I think as the more experienced you become with this programming and stuff like that, sometimes it almost hurts you a little bit, because you start to build up barriers against things that have been a problem for you as you've tried to do them before. Ben says, I'm well, man. How are you? I am doing fantastic, Ben. Thank you so much. I missed the streaming for a while. I had a vacation, which was awesome. And then I came back, and I came back from vacation at the weekend just gone. And it got to Sunday to do the stream. And, my head just wasn't there yet for the stream, because I had like a technology free vacation, if you don't include my iPhone and my cameras, because that photography, in case you don't know, is my other thing. But other than that, it was a technology free. So I came back and I'm like, oh, there's all these new beta releases, and everything else. And I just was not ready to stream on the Sunday. And I thought, okay, what I'm going to do next week, meaning this week, I'm going to do some streams in the week. But I was also trying to I got to keep an eye and be careful, because I don't want to cross over Coco Type's streaming, because I know that, Coco Type, I know you stream in the week and I love to catch your streams. So I thought I would do a series of shorter, smaller streams this week to get back into the flow, ready for the next weekend and that. But then what happens? We get an iOS drop and we get an iPad drop and all that stuff. And so I was like, all right, well, that's going to give me an awful lot of things to work through and test on. Ben says, I have inherited my sister's MacBook Air from 2013. It came with Mountain Lion on it. Oh, Nice, very nice. You know, the MacBook Air, even through all my MacBook Pros that I've had, my MacBook Air, and I've only had one, and I want to say it was the first version that came out that didn't have that little drop down USB thing on the side. Maybe it was like the second or the third, something like that. Um, Still my personal favorite laptop. That even now, the MacBook Air is such an amazing piece of kit. My MacBook Pros are fantastic powerhouses, but the portability of the MacBook Air, I hope you enjoy it. Mountain Lion was a good release too. Personally, um, my machine, which I think was an iMac and had Snow Leopard, still felt like the most solid thing on the planet. But those MacBook Airs, oh, I think given the new powerful chips too, my next machine, portable machine, I've got an M1 Mac Mini that I'm running on this on right now, but I think my next one may well be a MacBook Air again. We'll have to see. Um, yeah, Coco Type says this is exactly why learning Swift UI is so tremendously hard to me. It's not at all like the things that I've learned before. My mind is too stuck in the rut of object-oriented programming. Yeah, me too, buddy. But that someone who came up with learning React or whatever will pick up naturally. Um, yeah, I guess so. I think I'm with you on this, right? My object-oriented programming got so ingrained in my brain over the years from all of the different technologies that I used that it's hard to not think that way. The only reason I think I do okay with Swift UI is because of my web background and thinking about UIs in that sense, right? So, and meaning that in a painful way, like JavaScript, where you got to search the DOM and all of those old, I've been doing the web forever before it got fancy, right? You know, yay blink tag. So I think that's the reason for me Swift UI is not so bad because I can draw from my web experience, my component building experience. Like for example, I've mentioned this before. For many years, I built Flash applications, so ActionScript, right? It's a form of JavaScript, object oriented, and essentially using components. And I think it's because of all of that that Swift UI is not so bad for me. Logan says, "Do you all have any advice to someone new in the tech industry looking for a first job?" Yeah, find a different industry. I'm just kidding. Uh, I think I think what you should do. Well, if I could wind the clock back, what I would do is try to get my foot in the door somewhere, even if it's something you can do where it's like, okay, it's either not going to pay me, like an internship or something, depending on your situation, or maybe it's not the best paying in the world. But if you can get a foot in the door somewhere, and maybe even in a position where you can pair program with someone who's been doing it longer, I think that is a good way to not only start building your reputation with not only the company and whoever it may be, and the industry, but also to build your knowledge by being with other people. I, for example, even now, um, try to surround myself with people a lot smarter than me, which is why I'm thankful that Coco Type lets me hang out in his stream because he's a lot smarter than me. I like to be surrounded by people smarter than me so that I can learn from them, but I can also give back as well. Coco Type says, "Yeah, all my web experience is back end, so no real DOM experience or whatever." Yeah, be thankful. I hate working with the web DOMs. Oh my god. So glad that's not a thing I have to care about anymore. Well, hopefully, fingers crossed. Yeah. So Logan, I think if you can do something like that, and I am sure Coco Type has probably some really good advice on this. Ben, please chime in as well if you got anything to offer here. I think that if you can also start taking part in open source projects, that is a good way to expose, um, you know, that knowledge learning for you to things that you're going to have challenges with, but in a way that you're really going to grow with it. And at the same time, you will grow in the communities. And as I think a lot of people have taken away from, this and like the streaming and how the streaming has taken off is, for a lot of this programming stuff, community is everything. At least that's my opinion on it. Ben says, what was the guy's question? Sorry. Yeah, Ben, I apologize, Ben. I can't remember if you've done any software development or not, but Logan's asking about, getting into it and how you basically you get that first job, right? And the first job is always going to be not the greatest, but that's not what it's for. The first job, I think, is to give you the exposure to say, is this a thing I want to make a career from, right? Coco Type says, no, that was basically what I did as well, but I was worried that what I did wasn't a great approach. I think we all have that, right? We all question, is my approach a good one? And I think the answer is, if it works for you, it was a good one, right? Even if you you make small steps, it's a good approach and it's going to work for you. So I think that, any progression is good, right? Coco Type says, I had a real crap startup job as opposed to a good startup job for my first real job. But everything else I've done since then was connections from that first one. Yeah. I think, a few times I've been lucky that I'm not the most social person on the planet, but I find it easier to hang out in tech communities. Kind of, I guess, a bit of social anxiety, but hey, doesn't all programmers have that? That's why we're programmers. But I think it's important that you face that and you deal with it, right? Or learn to deal with it. I don't think you're ever comfortable. Part of the reason I started doing this stream was I knew that I had a bunch of knowledge and I kept questioning, how good am I compared to the next guy, right? And then I realized it doesn't matter. As long as I'm good enough for what I need to be, that's what I need to be, right? And then I thought, okay, I'm going to start doing the streaming. People might come to my stream and go, wow, you're a really crap developer. I am so blessed and so thankful to all of you that's not happened. I have found that every community that I've done, including the streaming here in the chat rooms, and bless you all in the chat rooms, has been nothing but positive. And I'm so thankful for that. I think that's another part too. What you might want to consider, one of the things I did, without getting into details, I had a job where basically I couldn't really put on my resume what it was and what I did. And I was like, wow, boy, I've got a few years of gap on my resume. And I thought, how do I make up for this and prove that I know something? So that's why I started blogging, right? And it's a common thing. So you might want to go to like Dev2, which is, I'll put it in the chat room here. I have one on there. Dev2 is a great community. There's quite a few. I'm sure everybody can list off other ones as well. But it's a community of nothing but positive people. And you can go in there, do a blog, whatever. I recommend as well blogging your learning experience, because it's going to help you not only grow in confidence, but you'll be surprised how much you'll use that as reference going forward. I did that, right? And I know I've said this before, and I think even Coco Tuff said this before. The amount of times you'll Google something and find your own stuff in the results over the years, it's going to happen. But that's why a good reason to blog about it. Coco Type says, hey, my current job is a good startup job. All right, good. It's funny. I think the definition of startup has changed so much over the years that it's almost, I think you almost have to consider most things a startup now, right? Because a lot of them are designed to be like, oh, we'll probably be bought eventually. I liked the freedom of a startup to say, hey, let's explore whatever's going to work for us, right? And then there's that break point where everything becomes too regimented in process and starts to get a little kind of, same thing day in, day out, right? Not really a startup anymore. Yeah, see, Logan says, yeah, all my experience is in the social work field. I think actually that may be a benefit to you. I'm only an associate's degree. Again, I think it's all a benefit to you, right? Because you've perhaps got the you've got some of the skills that we as developers end up having to try and get, which is the social skills, right? Um, at least in my case, and most of the developers I've known, right? We're not the greatest people in the world when it comes to social skills, and we have to learn that side of it because for us, the technical part is easy, right? So I think you actually have an advantage, Logan, being the other way around. That's just my opinion. Ben says, community is a good way to get help and read and Google your tail off while watching tutorials. Whatever resource you can get will help you. I absolutely agree, Ben. Absolutely, boy, do I agree. Um, never be afraid to use any and all resources. And also, never be afraid to go backwards if you have to and learn the basics again. I've done it, right? I'll give you a few examples. When I started learning React, I had not written CSS in any. I know React is not technically CSS, but it's kind of similar structure. In quite a while, and forgot most of the names of things, and JavaScript too, right? I hadn't done it for the longest time. So I'm never afraid to say to myself, you know what? I need to go back and do a 101 beginner's basic course because once I start doing that and I acknowledge that I need to remind myself, very quickly I'll be saying to myself, oh yeah, I know this, skip forward, or oh, that's right. Don't ever think that going backwards is wrong. It's not. You cannot be expected to remember everything. You shouldn't remember everything. That's why we have, like Ben says, Google and videos and resources. That's why they're out there. I always think of, as long as I can figure out how to describe the problem to myself, I can essentially go Google the answers to the parts of the puzzle, right? I don't remember every function in Swift. I've never learned every function in Swift. I know there are people that can sort of recite foundation. That's great. You're not going to do it on a daily basis, so why did you bother, right? You're going to learn about functions you're never going to use. Well, why would you do that, right? Coco Type says who are able to mix and match skills from different areas are usually way better off. Yeah, more successful, etc., than people who focus on just one thing. I agree. Which brings us, brings in that whole thing about, find your niche. Well, I get that, but I don't think you should find a niche until you know which one it's going to be, right? Coco Type says it used to be a drinking game with WWDC. That's why you memorize the methods in Foundation. Oh, see, I've never been to WWDC, so I don't know. I guess I missed out on the games. Damn, you know what? I better start practicing now then, so that when they finally do in-person ones again, I'm prepared for it, right? But I agree with Ben. The resources are out there. Take advantage of them. That's why they're there. Don't feel you have to learn everything. Learn it when you need it, right? With the exception of, you should learn some basics, right? Like I've got here. How do I make a Swift UI thing that looks something like this? Something like that, right? Just learn the basic bits because for example, all this stuff here, these modifiers, I'm not going to learn them all. I'm just going to learn about them when I need to use them. Hopefully, after I've used it a few times, it'll stick in my head. But with Swift UI, unfortunately, they changed them enough at the moment that that's not necessarily going to happen. But until I started doing a lot of Swift UI, like in this app here, I couldn't remember half the names of the things that I used 2 days earlier, So that's that. All right, what I'm going to do here is I am going to open up another project. I want to open up. We're gonna check another project. This one's a Mac app. So, and get this, folks, it is a Mac app with storyboards. So we're gonna check this one now while we're talking here, because this one's gonna take a little while to compile. This is my self-built blogging app that I use for my sites that generates the static markdown files. We're going to start this running here. I'm going to get it to run its tests while we're talking. But please keep the conversation going. I think it's a good conversation to have. I would almost say that we don't have enough conversations in our communities about how to help people getting started, right? because it's a big thing, you know. And like I say, I've found over time things have started to switch more to the positive and less of the negative about helping people. And, you know, I never mind if people make fun of my code as long as they're doing it in a non-hurtful way, because I can make fun of my code all day. Just looking at it, it's like, what? You know. All right, let's see if this one compiles. I see I got 13 warnings. I almost don't want to click on them. All right, let's let this one run. So this is old school storyboards, right? Not even Swift UI on this one. Although I really want to convert this. But, and here's a question for you all. Warnings of the spice of life. Yeah, but sometimes it's too spicy. Okay, it ran. So that's good. We didn't get any fatal errors. And the UI switching, yeah. My template keys, let's check this. Okay, good. That's all good. Yeah, so far nothing's broken. Those are loading up, putting those in. Oh, there's actually, that is a bug that I knew about. But other than that, what it does is it generates a markdown file, but since I haven't put any markdown in, there you go. There's the markdown. And let's make sure code tag works and an image tag. Great. You know what? I don't think... okay, great. That's the preview. And then the last part would be... yeah, this is a preview of the markdown file that I can either copy to the clipboard, save to file. Great, this is all working. Wow, I mean, look at me getting lucky. You're based in Texas, right? How is there such a thing as too spicy? Ah, sir, I have you. Because remember, yes, I'm in Texas. 29 years as an English guy. Spicy is not a thing I can handle. So in Texas or not, it's going to make me cry. I'm getting there. I can now look at a jalapeno without crying. What can I tell you? Okay, good. This is working. The clear's working. Fantastic. All right. Let's see what's going on. Oh, geez. Oh, actually, some of these I knew I had their layout constraints. Don't we love layout constraints? Yeah, we all love layout constraints, right? You know, funny story. Coco type. I went down to South Texas recently and survived. I survived spicy food. What can I tell you? I feel like I'm finally growing up as a Texan, despite the weird accent. So, yeah. All right. On this one, you'll notice what I didn't see. Let me run it again. Okay. Yeah, there we go. It's only on this one, right? Yeah. I'm adding a new feature here. Again, this is an app just for me. When I'm writing my compileswift.com posts, if I'm doing one for the podcast, it's a pain to have to go get the embed details for the podcast to put in the post. So I'm trying to improve that. But what I've done for right now is I've got just a little button over here. When I click this, it's going to go in here, hopefully, and pull up, yeah, anchor.fm/compileswift. So this is the podcast page. Everybody should listen to the podcast, but I'm biased. But basically, it saves me a step. I can go in here. I can get the embed code. Let me click on one of these. All right. I do not need it to play. There we go. But I can go and share, and I can get the embed code here. Right? I can just go in there, copy it, close that, go back, and I've got my post embedded. I won't show on the preview, but I've got my post embed details. So I just want to save myself a step with this extra button. I'd love, if I was not so lazy, to have a button that I can push that would scrape the web page for that embed code. But that requires a little more than I really want to dive into right now. A little more stepping back into the web on that one. So that's that. Good. This code base works. I don't have any localization, and I know I've got constraint issues, but I can almost live with those because, again, this is just an app for me. At least it's not breaking the build. By the way, the quick shout out here, the package that I used to display to process the markdown is one here. It's a Swift package called Down. It's a fantastic package. It's really great. It just, to all the maintainers, a huge thank you. This is a nice little package for just quickly, you give it basically a string, which will be a string of, it contains markdown. It'll pass that and then render it out as formatted markdown. It's fantastic. I've been looking for the longest time for something like that. All right, so that's that app. Let's see, what else do we have? Let's take a look at this one. I feel like today is kind of like a catch-up kind of, stream. So I hope none of you mind. It's just nice to get back in the stream of it here. This one is, let me run this because I can't. I was looking for, I have an app. I gotta fix this. Okay. Let's try. Let's see if it'll build up these libraries. I have a code code note-taking app that I built for myself. It actually started as a test a long time ago. You've probably seen my videos on it. I hope you have. Code Notes for iOS, it's called. Or maybe it was Code Notes for iPad. I can't remember. And it was just for me. It was an excuse for me to build my first. I think it was my first personal app. And I just wanted to play around with some different things. But one of the things that it didn't have was a parser for code in the editor window. So all this app is one to test out this library. I found this great library called Code Editor, right? Which again is a Swift package. And you can see it's right here. But what it is, again, you can pass it a string and you can tell it, what language you want. It uses highlighter in the background is what it's actually doing. And it'll render out your code text as, as text, basically as, what am I trying to say? As rendered text. So you can see like all I've got here, right? Is I put a markdown test on the end there because I also use markdown in the same thing. But basically I just say, look, here's the string, right? I'm going to tell the code editor that's the string. I want you to render it out as a Swift language with this theme, and it does it beautifully. So it's another code editor is another fantastic package if you need something like that. All right, let's see. I think that's about it really for today. I just wanted to make sure these were working, so that was good. And I am so glad that you all came back. Thank you, Logan, Coco Type, Ben. Thank you all for dropping by the chat. I'm so glad you all remembered. I was worried that I would come back and there'd be nobody around like, who's this guy? Didn't he used to stream something? So I was so nice to come back and see friendly faces in chat. Thank you all so much. And I really appreciate it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try and do a series of shorter streams this week to get back into the swing of it. I think now that we are seeing the new versions of iOS and iPadOS drop, let's be honest, probably going to be macOS not far around the corner, right? I think we're going to have a lot to talk about and a lot to explore. And I certainly have a lot of things that I want to build. Hopefully you will feel the same way. I'm trying to figure out what to do because I do want to cover some of the web technologies as well. Not necessarily just Swift based. And I can't decide, and maybe you can all help me decide if I should have these on the same stream or put them on a separate one. I don't know. It's always tricky, right? Because you don't want to, obviously the name of this one is Compile Swift. People expect it to be Swift, but at the same time, there are other technologies you need to use sometimes to provide, your applications. For example, APIs, right? So you may have a web technology. So I'd love to hear, in the comments and that, in the chat rooms, whatever, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Whether you would prefer to see those as a separate stream, or we just lump all this in as, hey, this is extra stuff that you will encounter at some point, right? If you write a Apple platform application, at some point you're going to call an API, load a file, whatever, from the web somewhere. You should have an understanding of how that works so that you know on your side when you're dealing with it how it's working on the back end, and also when problems come along. So let me know on that. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Other than that, looks like Xcode 13 is working pretty good for me. Hopefully yours, feeling the same. The betas were pretty good this year. I had very few issues. I do need to get into writing some more tests and things like that. I am pushing people to write more tests. So I feel like I've got a responsibility to do that myself as well. Do people starting macOS, iOS dev these days even know the name Cocoa? They should, right? I would say, it's funny because on a lot of these things, I don't think they ever go away, right? Like, it might not be immediately obvious, but, I think most people will certainly see in documentation Cocoa mentioned. I would hope that when people see it, they're curious enough to go and look and see what was that, right? Just like when someone says, trying to think of another example. Oh, what were those? Web objects, I think it was. And go and see what that is, right? Okay, you might not use it, but it's good to know where the stuff you're using came from. NS is next step. Yeah. And in fact, it's funny. I almost don't want to see NS disappear from a lot of the code. Like we have old school Swift. Is that a thing? An Objective-C where, everything begins with NS. Kind of want it to stay because it's a bit weird when it's not there. And I get that it's not there for Swift, but doesn't it feel a bit like tradition at this point that you want to see it, It's a bit like on the web technologies, you see the $sign and you're like, oh, this must be like, jQuery or something. You just get used to seeing these things and don't want to see them going away. Yeah, they're stripping it from Foundation. Yeah. But AppKit keeps all the NSs, even in Swift 3. Yeah, I wonder why that is. Anyone have any thoughts as to why they are keeping it around for that? Do you think maybe it is just tradition, or maybe they just don't want to do it? And they're like, we just do it in Swift, and eventually everyone will be doing Swift, and that's that. I hope that we always have options. I would hate to think that one day we'll just be writing Swift and nothing else, because, there's just so many things that are still needed at this point. It's not going to happen anytime soon. Just like with web technologies. And just like, for example, I always draw on this one. I could still write out the rest of my career writing Flash applications. I just don't want to. AppKit's just for the Mac. Well, that's true. Well, I guess maybe that's the thing, right? Once they finally decide that, okay, Swift UI becomes the norm, AppKit doesn't matter so much, maybe eventually Apple will switch it over. I think they just decided the Foundation was special since it's going to non-Apple platforms. Yeah, I always thought that like the name Foundation, it just sounds like, ooh, that's awesome. That sounds important, right? I have to be careful sometimes. And in fact, Coco Type and the rest of you, maybe this has caught you out as well. A few times I have found that the differences between AppKit and like UIKit still catch me out. For example, and this is maybe a conversation for a different day, but I experimented with writing I noticed that React Native, you can do desktop apps now. But I think I started to encounter some issues there where, there was like an iOS thing and a Mac thing and it wasn't quite working right. They're making a whole TV Plus show about it. Oh, I see what you did there. Actually, I really want to see that Isaac Asimov Foundation in case anyone's curious what the joke is. I do want to see that program But wouldn't it be funny if they were like, oh yeah, we're just going to list off the functions in, that's all this program is going through foundation functions. I think that maybe it might get cancelled. But I do want to see that program. Yeah. All right. Well, I think I'm going to leave it there for today for everybody. I got to get some stuff done before the morning. I got an early start in the morning. But thank you, everybody. It's just a video of the method listing, WC. You know what? Wasn't there, was it a couple of years ago, there was a wwdc, and I can't remember who it was, but they were talking about the API changes, and as the joke, they're like, okay, so let's start going through them, and they started with like A something, and it's like, oh yeah, nerdy joke. That's awesome. Love it. Anyway, thank you, everybody. Thank you to everyone in chat. Thank you, Logan. Thank you, CocoTide. Thank you, Ben. It was great to have you all drop by. Appreciate you all, as always. Please always feel free to have any kind of discussion. It's all, as CocoTide pointed out once, the discussion is perhaps the most important part of this stream. It was the kickoff, State of the Union. Yes, thank you. That was it. Yeah. That was awesome, wasn't it? That was great. And thank God they only did a couple. But yeah, thank you everybody for dropping by. Greatly appreciate you spending the time with me today. And I will see you in the next one. I will try to keep my schedule updated on the site. Again, if you want to get hold of me or anything, just look for Compile Swift anywhere or go to compileswift.com. And if you have any questions outside of like our streams here and that, please feel free. You can send me an email, compileswift@gmail.com, and I am only too happy to talk with you all because I really enjoy your company. Thank you, everyone. Have a great few days until hopefully I get the next stream going here. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you again soon. Thank you so much.